Hello and welcome. My name is Shoans. I just want to tell you a little bit of story about me. And this is a really quick project for my friend James. So I hope this comes out well for you, James. We're going to give you about 20 minutes of my story. I'm going to talk a little bit about what it was like growing up for me and going through certain struggles and challenges that I had, and then a solution to those challenges, and then what it's like today. So again, my name is Shoan Snowday. I was in California, and I was very happy there. My mother is Dutch German. My father is American Indian and Black, and it was great growing up in the 60s and 70s in Hermosa Beach. I loved it. My friends and the community was really embracing for mixed families back then, and I really enjoyed it. But what happened was right around 7 years old, my parents decided to part. And with that came what they were going to do with Shoan. So the title of this story is "There's Something Wrong with Shoan." Okay. Again, my name's Shoan, like Shone, Shoan, but it's spelled differently. That's besides the point. So what happened was I ended up in military school. So to make this a short story, I was in military school, I was in youth camp for high school, and I was in lockdown by a teen behind 4-inch thick bulletproof glass. And that was because of my bad behavior. So I'm a problem child. Now, I'm not like an AC/DC problem child, the song where I go marching around even though I'm getting straight A's. I mean, I was getting straight F's. Now, when I was in military school, I was doing really good. But once I got out of there, once you put me in public school, once I have free reign of my own, self-will out there in public, I just go nuts and crazy. And so what happened was, once I got out of military school, I went to public school and I started doing drugs at a young age and drinking alcohol. And that was in seventh and eighth grade. And I ended up getting intervened on at 14 years old, and I ended up going to youth camp. Now, at youth camp, is up in the mountains. We were 10 miles off of the main road, and well, we were 5 miles off the main road, but 10 miles past snow line. So what that means is they plowed the snow up to this certain point on the mountain, and then 10 miles after that was just snow. And then the road going up to the camp was 5 miles off the main road. So I was up there, I got rehab, going good. But I started drinking again. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cough here. But I started drinking again at 18 years old. And I was back into a program to where I had to kind of learn how to not drink and not do drugs. But it didn't work for me at 18 years old. I tried it at 18, at 19, at 21, and at 23. And after 23, my 24th year, I just didn't try anymore. I was just like, I'm out there. I'm just going to live this lifestyle. It's just going to be horrible. And what happened was at 24 years old, I was either going to kill someone or someone was going to kill me. It got really bad. So my father sent me to all places, Iowa. So I went to Iowa because, it's hard to get in trouble with a combine and a piece of corn. But I found trouble out there regardless. But I was not doing drugs, but I was drinking very heavily. And what would happen is I would drink and pass out and wake up and drink and pass out and wake up. Now they had Low Point beer out there in Iowa. So I would drive to Nebraska and get the High Point beer, right? And then that would be Friday. I'd drive out there. And then I would order a large pizza, this huge pizza. It's about as big as a trash can lid. And it was like $50. Now you got to remember this is 90s, so $50 was a lot of money for one pizza back then. And so all I would do is Friday night, I just drink, pass out, wake up, drink, pass out, wake up, pass out all night, wake up Saturday, drink, pass out, wake up all Saturday and all Sunday. And by Sunday morning, the living room was Beer Can Beach, and there's an empty pizza box. And then I would, Monday morning, I would throw up. I would go to work, and then I'd work and I'd start getting sober right about 3 or 4 o'clock. The alcohol would be getting out of my system. I'd get off work at 5 or sometimes later, and I'd go right to the Dakota Rose out there in South Dakota, and I'd drink until 1 or 2 in the morning. Then I'd go home, pass out. In the morning, I'd throw up, and then I'd go to work. And then right when I was tapering off again, I'd go back to a bar, start drinking, and it was just a vicious cycle for me. I actually ended up getting fired from that job for drinking, and I went to Austin, Texas, where things got worse. Not only did I continue to drink, but I started doing drugs again. Things started getting really bad for me, and I started hanging out with bad motor scooters and in abandoned homes, abandoned buildings, and I would sleep, in just parks and strange places. I ended up being homeless, but my parents helped me out a lot through there. I was never really truly homeless out there, but there's times when I would rather not go home. I'd rather be around people in abandoned buildings because I just needed that type of community because it's scary. Anyhow, so what happened is I ended up meeting a guy named Karl, and I got a bunch of jail stories, but I can only make this 20 minutes. So what Karl said is he knew a way, a buddy system, how he could, he's like telling me, why don't you and I do the buddy system where you stop drinking and I'll stop drinking and we'll just do the buddy system. I said, great. So we did that. And then he said, hey, I actually know of a place where we could do, where there's a lot more people doing the buddy system and a type of accountability. So I went, hey, that's great. So I started doing that. I met all these other people that weren't drinking or doing drugs, and they were helping each other not drink and do drugs. And I thought it was really amazing and wonderful. And Karl quit like hanging out with that group of people, but I loved it because what I found was the people the people that I was hanging out with. I don't know if that's proper English, but it doesn't sound like it. But what was happening is I met people that were actually enjoying life and having a great time. And I was in my 20s, so I started hanging out with all these people that were in my age group, basically between ages 25 to 30. So I started hanging out with those people. We were having a blast, having fun. We were going on rope swings and going canoeing and going to the lake and going hiking, going to coffee shops, playing laser tag, just doing all kinds of things that were extremely fun, and I was having a great time. And then I found out that there was something going on with me internally, like I had this internal turmoil. And I found that I was getting depressed every 3 months. Now, I always got depressed every 90 days. And I don't mean depressed like, I'm having a bad day. I mean depressed like clinical depressed. I can't get out of bed. I can't even go anywhere. So what I found is I had to start doing some type of work that I can meet the problem at a higher awareness than what the problem was. So Einstein said you can't meet the problem at the level of the problem. You have to find a solution that's larger than the problem, and that's what I actually did. And what that had to do with, for me anyhow, was doing a lot of meditation. So what I started doing, and this was really weird, because in my first year of getting off of drugs and alcohol, I was hanging out with these people, but for some reason, I don't know why this happened with me, but no one else I knew was doing it. I started doing these 1 hour meditations every week. And I've been doing a 1 hour meditation pretty much every week for over 2 decades. But what I found was that when I did these meditations, I would get all this chatter in my head, all this noise, and I'll never forget this, because when I first started sitting down to get quiet and find that quiet within me and do the meditation, what would happen was I'd get this don't panic. I would sit down, and for some reason I wanted to jump out of my chair and run across and just run out of the house. It was very different for me to just sit quietly. So I bought this album. It was called Kokapelli, and I would listen to this American Indian music and just sit quietly with the music. And I did that for years, listening to that. And then I started doing some writing, and some of that writing that I did had to do with writing stories to myself and a story about myself, and just having a conversation with myself. And one of the things that I was doing, I did this class and it was called Journey to Wholeness. And in Journey to Wholeness, we took passages out of the Bible, and then they were rewritten in stories. And then we'd read the stories and ask the question. One of the stories that I remember was about a guy that had a well, and the whole town would come to his well, and everyone loved him, and they loved the water well, and he had the only water well in town. And everyone came, and they loved him, and they'd get water, and he'd give it to them freely. And then one day, the water well dried up, and he couldn't believe it. So he kept throwing the bucket in the well and bringing it up empty. And he would throw the bucket in the well and bring it up empty, and he did that all day and all night for a week. And one day he brought up the bucket and it was empty, and he looked at it and he realized the well was dry. So then, having a story like that, I had to relate, how did that story relate to me and my life? How was I trying to go to a certain well of relief and not finding it? And all the townspeople had left because they already got the fact that the well had run dry. But it took him a week later and many, many, many attempts to come to the truth that the well had run dry. So I was writing stories to myself, and I realized that at the end of doing this writing and just, kind of having a conversation with myself, I would always end, and I still have this writing. I have just stacks and stacks of paper of writing. And I remember ending all of it with, I love you, Shoan, and then I would write, I love you too. So in the writing, I know this is kind of off the wall, but at the end of my writing, whatever I was writing, just like daily pages of writing to myself and stories and just doing an inventory of what was going on and kind of like a diary or something, what I found was that at the end, I would say, I love you, Shoan. I'd say, I love you too. So something was saying to me, something within me was saying to me, I love you. And then I was responding back, I love you too. So I was doing this after 4 years of doing this type of work and this self-inquiry, you might want to say. I met my spiritual teacher, and I moved back to California, to Hermosa Beach, my hometown. And this is in the 90s. I met my spiritual teacher, and I remember doing work with him, and I told him one day, hey, I keep doing this writing, this inquiry to myself, just looking at myself and where I'm making mistakes and what challenges I have and how I can correct my behavior, right? Because there's something wrong with me. How can I correct that behavior to make myself be more kind, loving, patient, and tolerant? And I told him that I ended every sentence with, I love you, Shoan, and I love you too. And then he told me something that really shifted my life. He said, next time you write, I love you too, underneath that, write, what have you to say to me today? Very simple sentence. What have you to say to me today? So the spirit within me, whatever it is, was saying, I love you. I, the little I, was responding back, I love you too. And the big I within me, the capital I, was saying, what have you to say to me today? And I was like, I want to fly a kite. I want to ride my bicycle. I want to grow orchids. I grew a pineapple. Did you know it takes 5 years to grow a pineapple? I got to 3 years and then I lost the pineapple. That's another story. But I started writing and having this conversation with myself. Now, there's a book out there called Conversation. I never read it. And I don't know anything about it. But I do know that I was having with myself, and maybe my higher self with my human awareness to my God consciousness, or my higher awareness to my lower awareness, whatever you want to call it. I was doing this writing and my life started to shift. Now, what happened when I started doing that is a lot of stuff started bubbling up. You know, a lot of this rage that I had over the years, a lot of anger, um, a lot of false beliefs that I was separated from love and kindness, and that I had to go out and puff up my chest and prove to people I was a man. Plus, I was still pretty young, so I was still trying to figure out what was going on in this world, and you know, did I have to prove to people that, you know, that I'm cool or whatever. I don't know what the trip was, but I was tripping. So I found that that having done all this work and starting to live differently, that the anger came up, and I was still doing the meditations, but I was really angry. And so then I went to my spiritual teacher and I told him, look, I have all this anger. It's just bubbled up. And I don't know why. You know, we're going on 10 years here of not drinking or drugging or really bad behavior. I still had bad behavior, and I still kind of do, right? But the thing is, I realized that you know, I couldn't even drive in traffic without spazzing out, right? So what he said to me was I had to get all of that anger out of me. And some people, they get, he said one girl, she had a baseball bat and she had an old sofa in her garage, and she would just hit that old sofa with her baseball bat. And other people had other techniques. Well, then I asked a friend of mine, and this is an angry person. I asked him, hey, my spiritual teacher told me I have to get all this anger out of me, and I just have to get as angry as I can until it's all out. And that guy said, well, you don't want to do that. And I said, why? And he goes, well, the angrier you get, you never know when it's going to stop. You just might get angrier and angrier and angrier. So I went back to my spiritual teacher and I said, hey, I'm a little afraid to do this because I'm afraid I might get too angry. And this is what his reply was. He goes, do you want to be as angry as that other person, or do you want to be as peaceful as I am? And that was the deal breaker. I wanted to be peaceful. I wanted to have peace in my life, and I wanted to express that peace to other people. I wanted to be loving and kind, and I still struggle with that to this day. So what I did is I went to the dollar store and I bought 2 teddy bears. I bought a girl teddy bear and a boy teddy bear and a wiffle ball bat. And every time I was mad at a girl, it didn't matter where she was or who she was, I'd go home and I'd take a wiffle ball bat and I'd hit the girl teddy bear. And then if I was mad at a guy, doesn't matter where I knew him from, if it was a sibling or a parent or a boss or whatever, I would go home with the wiffle ball bat and I'd take out all the anger on that teddy bear. And I did this for a long time. By the way, the whole time I was doing that, I was doing it 1 to 2 to 3 hour meditations a day. And I did those for about a year. Right now, I'm in my 18th year of absolutely no depression, and that's with no medication. And I don't go clinically depressed anymore. It's weird, but it's all been gone, and it's through the spiritual work that I did. And I don't recommend this to anybody, especially if you're on medication right now. It's a felony in the state of California to prescribe medication, and I think it should be a felony in the state of California to unprescribe medication. And anyone that's on medication should not unprescribe themselves, okay? So I just wanted to put that out there. But for me, no medication, depression-free, 18 years. But what was really interesting is when I was done with the teddy bear and the wiffle bat experience, getting all the anger out, I started experiencing more joy and love in my life. And it was just really amazing that, you know, I could have these tattoos, I could have this history, and I could have this belief that I got to walk around with my chest puffed out. And now I can walk humbly around and knowing that, hey, it's okay, whatever, if other people think of me, what I think they're thinking about me. And they're usually not even thinking about me. It's usually I'm thinking that you're thinking about me because I like thinking about me. And I think you should think about me. And that's just how a lot of people are. But here's the interesting and really astonishing thing that happened. I lived in Hermosa Beach, and I lived 5 houses from the ocean. And we had a garage sale. And during the garage sale, in the garage, the 2 teddy bears and the wiffle ball bat were still there. And so this little girl comes in with her mother, and she goes, and all this stuff is laid out for them to buy at the garage sale, but the teddy bears were not for sale. They were just sitting there. So this little girl asked, "How much is the teddy bear?" And I'm like, "Well, which teddy bear do you want?" And she goes, "I want the girl one. I think it had a little bow on the hair or something." And I go, "Well, you can have that teddy bear for free. Would you like to have that teddy bear?" She looked at her mom, and her mom nodded yes. And I handed her the teddy bear, and the little girl named the teddy bear right there. And she says, "Your name is Cindy, and I love you." And she gave the teddy bear the biggest hug. Now, I'll never forget that, because this was a tool that I was using to get my anger out on. And for her, it was a tool that she could love and be loved back. And I don't know what that means psychologically, but I do know that inanimate objects can be used in different various ways. And I was actually to achieve peace through using the teddy bear as a tool to alleviate my anger. And she was able to achieve joy by using the teddy bear as a tool of love. And that doesn't mean anything to me, but it makes me smile. I think it's amazing and great and wonderful. So once I got through all of that, and I went through all of the frustrations of just having these false beliefs that I have to behave a certain way in order to get you to like me. And another thing that I used to really like to do is I would judge you, judging me, judging you. So in other words, I would go, "You don't like me because I know, because you're a jerk, because you think I'm a jerk." And a lot of times I would say hi to people, and they go, "Hey, Shoan, how's it going?" And it was people that I thought didn't really like me, and they really did like me. I just had this false belief that I was separated from my higher awareness, that capital I, that little spirit within me that expresses itself to what you're seeing right now. And other people really enjoy that, and they really love being around that. And so today what's happening is, I'm around a lot of people, and it really enjoy making people laugh. And even today, I went through a very strenuous today with a lot of customer service representatives that weren't really skilled, and they were wasting a lot of my time. And I never raised my voice, and I might have got a little gruff in my voice, and I might have got a little frustrated in my voice and in my tone, which is not my goal. But I didn't yell at them. I didn't belittle them. And I thanked them for doing the best that they possibly could to help me throughout my day. And that's not how things were at all times. Also, I have a lot of people in my life right now that really care about me, that really honor me, and that really champion me to be the person who I am today. And I didn't have that when I was hanging out in the abandoned buildings. I just had people that would take, and never give back. And and I was probably a taker as well. And I don't know who I am today as whether I'm a giver or a taker, but I know that I do give from my heart, and I do know that I try to share from my heart, but I talk out my neck. I know that happens a lot of times. I know that sometimes I go to someone and I really want to share something powerful with them, and it comes out the wrong way, because I'm human and I'm fallible. But the difference between me being human and fallible now than being human and fallible before was before I could never forgive myself for my underachievements and for my failures. And now a failure is just one next step to my success. So it's been really an honor and a pleasure for sharing my story with you. I hope this makes sense. I hope this helps you out, James. And and that's my story. Again, my name is Shoan, and as my spiritual teacher says, all is well, and everything's unfolding exactly as it should. Have a great day.